Hey everybody, hopefully this is working. This is our first time in our new Drinking Buddies Lounge studio, so I am super excited to be live with you tonight. This is also our first ever live Friday detox. So let me tell you a little bit about detox. What I'm planning on doing is most Fridays, hopefully a lot of Fridays, I'm going to bring to you some interviews from people in my life that I've gotten the opportunity to meet and hang out with and maybe get to know, and maybe really good friends of mine who have just done amazing things, even though they don't always know how amazing they are. So I'm going to bring you a series of lounge acts, because what good is a lounge without some entertainment? And on Fridays, it is the Friday detox. So also shout out to my husband for building this amazing studio. So now we are officially in the lounge. I'm so grateful that you are here. We are going to redefine the bar conversation, and we are going to change lives one drink at a time. Tonight, I'm just drinking vodka and Bia. So, this is what I had on tap today. Hope you guys are enjoying your drink and your Friday. And tonight, we are going to be interviewing one of my favorite people. She happens to be a business partner of mine. And I've known her for probably a decade, maybe longer, if I try to do the math in my head here real quick. We worked together at Verizon for a while, and we used to call her Moss Boss. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people now because her maiden name used to be Moss. It's now Davis, but she will always be Moss Boss to those of us that know her as that. But over the last year or so, she has gone through some pretty remarkable transformation. And when I look at her, she just defines for me the difference between fearlessness and bravery. And so tonight I wanted to bring her on as our first detox so that she can help. We're going to talk about an experience that she had that I think really highlights those differences, and why at the end of the day, you really want to choose bravery over fearlessness. So I'm going to bring on, assuming this works, Miss Lindsey Davis. Lindsey!
Hi! Hello! Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I am so excited. I couldn't imagine anybody else being our first detox guest. So I gave everybody a little bit of an introduction for you. And, really when I teed this up, I called it the woman who defines bravery over fearlessness, which is, to me, as I've watched you grow over the last year, there's no better way to explain just quite how amazing I think you are. So I'm going to highlight or have you talk through a very specific example for people. I'm very excited about this. You know a little bit about it, but for everybody watching, we have not rehearsed this. She has no idea what I'm going to ask. That's how I like to, do these things just on the cuff with a little bit of alcohol. It's a good time had by all. So, Lindsey, I want to take you back to last July, I think it was, when we were in Nashville and we got to see a keynote speaker. Why don't you tell everybody who we saw and what the experience was like for you?
Oh, geez. So back in July in Nashville, first of all, it was so much fun, but Michelle Poler, I mean, the whole experience itself was mind-blowing. But for me, one of the biggest takeaways was seeing our keynote speaker, Michelle Poler. She had this story of just like an average person. Like, she was going to get her master's in New York City. I guess that's not average for everyone, but she was getting her master's, and just her teacher challenged the whole class, do 100 things you're scared of. And then she did this whole video series of documenting every single thing she was afraid of. And it was just mind-blowing to me to see, because I started thinking, I was like, is there 100 things I'm scared of? There's the obvious ones, but then I was like, I know I'm personally, I'm scared of frogs. My kids tease me about that all the time, but what am I scared of? What am I fearful of? So I loved her whole presentation. She comes out dancing no one cared. And everyone in the audience was just what, someone help her? Did backup dancers forget to come out? What is going on right now? So it was a weird start, but it showed she just didn't care about anything. And she was so relatable. She's someone that I feel could be sitting here right next to me and just having a beer at the bar. So down to earth, but just her way of talking, it was again, talking to a best friend, not that you're in a room full of thousands of people and anything like that. So it was great. I loved her presentation skills to start with, but the message that she gave was just, it was something I've never heard before, of talking about being fearless, or not even being fearless, of facing those fears and being brave and having that courage. So she, during the whole, not even the whole thing, she, like, it was towards the end, she's like, oh, follow me on Instagram. And I was like, I'm going to follow her. Like, it was just one of those things. I'm sure, again, out of thousands of people in the audience, I'm sure she got 1,000 more followers on Instagram. So I'm not saying that I was any different, but I was just like, I need to see more of her, whether it's just, I need to see little clips of her talking, or, anything like that. It was just so cool. So again, for me, I'm not scared of like reaching out to people, like a celebrity, and I would consider her a celebrity, someone who got up on stage in front of thousands of people and just talked. Like, to me, I would never have the courage to do anything like that. So I'm like, yeah, what do I have to lose? So again, in Nashville, like shortly after, I was like, like I sent her a message on Instagram. I was like, Michelle, I need to meet you. I just like, I need to hug you or something. Like, I don't know what I need to do, but I just need to say thank you. So like I sent her a message, a couple days go by. She didn't respond, which to me, I was like, yeah, she's a celebrity. What? No, of course they're not going to respond to me. But then like a couple days later, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just saw this. Of course, I would have loved to have met you. And I was like, oh, that's really cool that she even like took the time to reach back out to me, whether it was true or not. It was just, I thought that was really cool. And so then again, like I just kept following her.
Yeah. So hold on, because this is where I feel like you don't give yourself enough credit. So I have to just set this up for everybody else who has no idea what you're talking about, because you're talking about like your good friend Michelle you saw on stage. So you thought, oh, I'm going to text her and all this thing. So for everybody else that was not at the event, for those of you that were, because some of you were, yes, we're talking about Celebration, which is an Isagenix event. Both Lindsey and I do Isagenix. And like in previous years, they've had keynote speakers like Tony Robbins. So they have like all these business speakers and great presenters, but then they pay somebody who's a pretty big deal to come out and like teach us something or motivate us or give us that like inspiration. And that was Michelle. She's now an author. She's been on all sorts of stages. I mean, yes, the girl's a celebrity. There's literally probably 3,000 or so of people of us that are watching in the crowd. My experience with her, because I just walked away from my full-time job, and she's talking about, just living in the moment and being brave and not waiting until you're fearless, because you might never be, and just doing things. So I'm bawling because the message to me feels like it's so much like in the moment, like just so meaningful for my life. I'm ugly crying at this point. Like the shoulders are shaking. Like I don't even want to see anybody. And you were in the crowd, and I promise you, yes, probably at least half of those people decided to follow Michelle that day. For those of you guys that sound like you want to know this girl, her handle is Hello Fears, and that is also the name of her book, which I thought I had nearby, but I don't. That's okay. But so we highly recommend it. But you reached out to her in her DM. Like, what made you feel like I should DM this woman?
Honestly, I don't know. It was just like, maybe it was like, part of me, I feel like looking, like I would classify, like, what do I have to lose? She might say, yeah, come backstage, let's go have a beer. And to me, it's like, oh, cool, let's go. But on the flip side, the worst is that she's like, sorry, I don't interact with you. I'm like, all right, cool, that's fine. Like, again, I don't care. Like, that's totally fine. But one of the things, like in her whole speech is that, or like her whole address was that, what's the best that can happen? So we're so framed to think of like, oh my gosh, well, let's just do it. What's the worst that could happen? I might die. What's the worst that could happen if I jump off this cliff? But it's like, yeah, okay, we get that. But once you say, what's the worst that could happen? You go to what's the worst that could happen. And you're like, well, yeah, I might die if I jump off this cliff. But then she kind of talked about saying, what's the best that could happen? So if I jump off this cliff, again, it's into a pool of water, for example. If I jump off this cliff, then I'm going to have a really fun time, and it's going to have an adrenaline rush. So think of the good things that you're going to come out of it, rather than always targeting your mind to the worst. So for me, like right after that, I was like, if I send her a message, again, what's the best that's going to happen? Like, she might say, yeah, come backstage, let's talk, let's go have a drink together. So for me, I was like, yeah, what's going to happen? The worst possible, it's not that bad. She might not ignore me, or she might ignore me, and that's not terrible. It's okay.
That's like you're at a concert with like your favorite band. Like I'm at a Tool concert and I'm like, I'm gonna look up Maynard on there's Maynard on Instagram. I'm just gonna message him, hey, can I meet you backstage like after the show? Like I've never once that thought has never crossed my mind. And I don't know if you remember this, but when you told me you did that, I was like, shit, like why didn't I think of that? Because I'm great. Like I think so. But it was like nothing to you. It was like you just had this like moment of like, Michelle's my friend, so I'm gonna just reach out to her. So tell us a little bit about how this has gone. So now we're like coming up almost on a year. So over the last like 12 months, is that the last you heard from her? Have you talked to her again?
Oh no, that's so she released a book, and again, following her on Instagram, I see all of her posts and updates about like her book coming out and how proud of it she was, and she was planning on doing this whole book tour. Like I was following her just as a fan. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll order the book. Like again, I find her very interesting. I love her message and I love her attitude, so I wanted to order her book. Mind you, I'm not a reader. I don't like to read it all, but I figured it'd be interesting to me. So like I ordered the book, and then I don't even remember how we got talking. I think I was talking to you about it one time, and I was like, it'd be cool if she would come onto one of our like isogenics team calls, and just maybe she'll have a motivational message. I don't know. Like it might be kind of cool. And they're like, you should ask her. I was like, oh, really? You think? And like, so I reached out to her, like just kind of sent her a message through Instagram. I was like, hey, so we have our isogenics team, like we're like 30-ish people or so. Like, would you ever come to a talk? And again, like in my mind, it's like she might say yes, she might say no. If she says no, we just go about our days and it's no different. But if she says yes, like, cool, we had Michelle freaking Polar talking to our little team. Like, that's really cool. So she responds back to me like almost immediately and was like, yeah, if you get 20 people to pre-order my book, I'll come and do a 30-minute chat. I was like, oh, well, okay. So I remember like as soon as she did, I feel like I screenshot it to you and sent it to you. And I was like, Dani, what's really like, is that possible? And so like we ended up getting 19 pre-orders. So we didn't hit our 20 mark, but neither here nor there. It was still like now 19 people have this book, and to me it's life-changing. Like I need to pause and like after every chapter, like pause and reflect on it because it's such a huge personal development book for me. But so getting out of line here, but so like the whole 19 thing happened, and I reached back out to her. I was like, oh, Michelle, I don't know if you heard, I didn't get 20 people. I'm sorry. But, if you're ever doing like free chats again, just let me know. And we'd love to have you. And she wrote back, she said, oh, thank you so much. Thanks for ordering my book. So then like the whole, like her book came out, released and everything. And again, like I said, it's fantastic. It's so great. And I noticed,
so good.
It's like, to me, it's like life-changing. Like after every chapter, every few paragraphs, I'm like, I have to stop and like reflect on what I just read and how like it impacts me. But we again, like through Instagram, I'd see that she would like post like people like tagging her in book clubs and stuff. And I was like, oh, we should have a book club. We should do this. So the 19 of we all got books, so we had a book club on it. And we're like, maybe she could come. So I sent her a message and she goes, oh my gosh, email me so I can like have the Zoom and everything. Like she was full on planning on coming. And then she heard that like we told her the date of it. And she's like, oh, that's right during dinner time. And her niece was coming. So like I have her whole backstory now. And she goes, please let me know every time you have a book club. I'm going to try to make it. I was like, oh, thanks.
Like to me, I invited this author to our book club.
I know when you
like me. Like I never read a book. I mean, I read all the time. Like I read Simon Sinek. He's one of my favorites. Malcolm Gladwell, Seth Godin. Like I read all these books, and now I'm reading the Michelle Polar book. And you're absolutely right. And I'm going to just drop this right now. I was going to save it till the end, but for everybody watching on the replay between now and the time I decide to do the raffle, if you comment below and tell us one thing that you're afraid of, you're going to get a raffle ticket, and I'm giving away a copy of the book. So just know you can comment now. You can comment replay in your fear. I'll remind you again at the end, but we are giving away a copy of the book tonight. And I think it goes up there as one of the best like self motivation, inspirational books I've read, but never once have I read a book by one of these authors and been like, I'm just going to invite them to our book club. Like, who do you think you are? Like, who is this person? Like, I know you from all of these years that we've worked together, and maybe I just didn't know you well enough, or maybe you've grown so much. I don't know if it's that I didn't know you well enough, or if this is like Lindsey Moss Boss 2.0. What do you think? Have you always had this like initiative in you, or is this something that has recently developed? Like, what's your thought process on that?
That's a good question. I feel like it's always been there, but I've always just kind of like kept it quiet. Like, I mean, if people ask me to, I'll do stuff, but at the same, like with this, to me, like it's nothing. I'm like, again, like, because when you were saying like sending a message to Tool, like to me, I'm like, yeah, I do that. Like, to be honest, like I do that.
You would do that if you could do that on my behalf and just
next time you're local.
That'd be awesome. I'd really, to be fair, I feel like I'm setting you up for failure. Maynard's probably going to spit on you. He's not a very nice guy. But I'm really into One Republic right now in that I Live song. So maybe you could just set it up for us to meet them. Like, that'd be cool.
Yes, I will send a message as soon as we're done. I haven't had good luck with like meeting Michelle or anything in person, but I'll at least get a conversation going. But yeah, like to me, I don't know. I look at it, I'm like, it's not scary for me just to like reach out behind a phone. But if you were to say like, Lindsey, if we're all in the same room, like, Lindsey, go up and talk to Michelle, like over there in the corner. I'm like, no, I'm not, no, why would I do that, Dani? Like, to me, if I'm behind a phone or a computer, again, I'm not saying that I'm scared in person, but it's not as scary for me to reach out just on the phone. Like, let me just send you a message or send you an email. That's not scary to me. I don't know.
So took it one step further. Like, we haven't talked necessarily about this yet, but again, I don't think you realize just how amazing this is. But so you're reading the book, and there comes to be a part that you have some thoughts behind, like you're trying to process it, and you're not quite sure if you understand it right. So why don't you tell us what you decided to do?
Yeah. So I was sitting on my porch, like on a Saturday morning, I was reading it, and at one part, like, it's not that it didn't make sense to me. I think I'm very analytical, so I was really trying to get a full grasp on it. And I was like, I don't understand this. She was talking about being fearless of something, being brave, and then being fearful. So she categorized these, different things. So she has you write it all down. So I wrote down what I'm fearful of, fearless, and then brave about. And as I'm going through, then her next thing is like, oh, talk to two other people about how they view you as that. So what do they think of you being fearless, brave, and fearful? So of course I call my husband out, and I was like, Andrew, what do you think that I'm brave, fearful of? And for me, I was like, I'm fearless of needles. Like, to me, I was like, I'm not scared of them. I'm not scared of hospitals. Like, bring it on if I have to. He was like, no, I feel like you're acting just in a brave manner. So we get into this whole discussion of being fearless and being brave. And I was like, I don't understand. I don't see where you're coming from, Andrew. I don't believe you. I don't believe that I'm just being brave about hospitals. So I asked a couple of our other friends, and I was like, did you guys read chapter 2 yet? Like, oh no, we're getting to it. I was like, okay, fine. Who else can I reach out to? Because this is weighing on my mind. I need to know the answer to this right now. So I sent Michelle a message. I was like, Michelle, can you break this down for me? I was like, can you just be fearless of something? Or am I just always in a brave state? And she, about within an hour, she responded back. And I was like, I was right. Go me. So I don't know. That was again, to me, I'm like, maybe I was stupid for reaching out. Maybe I'm obnoxious to her. Maybe she's like, oh, this Moss Boss 26 reaching out to me again. Shut her up. But I don't know. To me, it was I need to know the answer to this. And she helped me see the light with it all.
She's probably blown away. This is one of those times, and this is one of my favorite things, and what I plan to do with all of these detox. I think that a lot of times when we're living in our essence and we're doing things that are our best version of ourselves and also can come naturally, we don't realize that not everybody operates in this space. So like I'm reading some of the comments down here and somebody has mentioned that they're afraid of doing lives. And people always tell me, God, you're so brave for doing all your lives. But that's just not something, like, it's not bravery. It's not like I overcame that. I'm fearless about it. I don't have the fear. So like you said with needles, like people might see you get poked with a needle and not flinch and be like, whoa, you're so cool. But you're like, I don't have that fear. So it's not like I'm overcoming it. I just don't have it. You know, we all have that different boundaries. And that's where I feel like with you, like you think in your mind, like, well, maybe you're being annoying because you're like reaching out to her and all these things. But I would be willing to put like my next bonus check on the fact that there's maybe a handful of people who are messaging her directly. Like, can you help me understand this chapter of your book? Because that's just not something most people would think to do. Like, I think about some of the best books. There's a really great book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And it's one of my favorite books. And I've done a lot of book clubs around it. And there's parts in there that I'm like, God, I would love to talk to Simon Sinek about like this chapter, but I've never in my wildest dreams had the courage or even like thought, like, I'm just going to ask him to like talk about this with me. But you do it so naturally. Have you ever done anything like that before? Or is this like new for you with this?
I'd say this is relatively new. I did it once and this was actually one I was scared to like reach out, but it was because it was in person. Again, like to me, like talking to I have like bad social anxiety. Like talk to me in person. I'm like one-on-one, we could do this, but like I don't know, like in a group setting, it's I just don't want to talk at all. So and this was actually it was weird for me. So back in December, I went to a concert and I went by myself actually. So it was like 4 hours away. So even like that, I was like, I'm going to drive 4 hours by myself to go to a concert by myself, stay overnight by myself, and then drive home. Like, this is fine, right? But okay, we'll just go with it. But I also had a meet and greet pass for the artist. And I was like, okay, so now I'm going to go in a room full of other people, just kind of sit and like listen to him and talk to him. Like, this is very weird for me, but I'm just going to go with it. So I was freaking out the whole time. I was like, do I just like drink so I am so like not socially awkward anymore? Like, what do I do? But my one thing, so like we're in a small little like cafe type of thing, and he goes, oh, does anyone have any questions? Like just kind of shooting the shit. And I was like, actually, I have a question. And he's like, yeah, what's up? And I was like, can you explain to me this, like how this song came about? Like I just asked them like straight, like what do these lyrics mean? Because it's one of those things that's always been on my mind. Like, what a certain song meant to them. Like, how did they write it? And I don't know, hearing him like describe it, I was like, I never would have gotten that before. So to like, some people might be like, well, that's just like interpret it your own way. And I do, but it's just, you know what I mean? Like, think about how you want, but I like to know what's going on in like the artist's head about like how they're writing a song or how they're writing a book, you know, what went through their mind when they're writing certain things. Or again, like with the Michelle Poler thing, and I might interpret it differently still. I could tell Andrew what her background was when she wrote it, but it maybe it won't matter to him, but maybe it matters to me. Like, again, I like knowing what was going through their mind when they were writing it or talking about it. So I don't know, to me, I don't have any huge fear of reaching out to people and be like, what were you thinking about during that time? Or what's the meaning behind that song? I do that quite a lot, actually.
That's awesome. I think that there's a lot of us that would like to do that, and we just never think to like ask the source. And I'm sure, just like you said, one thing about Michelle and all these people really is they're just people, and this is their art form. And just like anybody who creates something, they want to talk about it. So they're probably excited that you were open enough to speak about it. Through the book and what we've learned from Michelle so far, I want you to tell us, like in your words, the difference between like fearlessness and bravery.
So fearless. Okay. So in my world, and I'm going to kind of talk in examples, but fearless for me, I'm fearless of needles. I'm not scared of them whatsoever. Like if someone's like, I'm going to stick you in the arm with 10 needles at once, you do 20 in this arm and then like on your abdomen. To me, I'm not scared of that. So I'd say I'm fearless of needles. And then if someone's like, well, now you got to go to the hospital and you also need to walk down the halls and you need to get 30 shots. I'm like, okay, when's my appointment time? Like to me, I'm not scared of that stuff. So fearless is something that you can just take on, not even like blinking, like just like, yeah, okay, let's do it. But being brave is it's different in the sense that like you're still going to do it, but you're still scared, but you're showing that you're okay with it. Even if you like, again, she is in her book, she talks about jumping off a cliff into a big pool of water. So she talks about like going to the edge and looking down and getting scared. And so she's not having it. But then a little girl comes up and does the same thing, kind of looks over the edge and backs up. Is like, no, that's not me. But then just goes and jumps, and that's bravery. So even though you're scared, you're still having that courage to overcome and do what you have to do. So like for me, again, like fearless is needles and hospitals. But I would say brave is if one of my children are in a hospital or getting stuck with needles. Like to me, like I'm scared for them, and I think that brings a whole other meaning to it. But like I'm scared that I have to go to the hospital because of my children that are in there, and my children are the ones that are sick. So I'm being brave to go and help to show them that like it's going to be okay, guys. You're fine. So I think that with our kids, I mean, like we can be fearless of certain things for ourselves, but bring kids or family or someone we care and love about, then it's a whole other thing of bravery. So that's the big part. I think once you start incorporating family into it, it's a whole other ball game.
So I've been lucky enough to get to be your business partner in the last year, however long we've been doing this together. And I've got to say, I've seen you be brave in so many different ways, because you come to me and you're like, okay, what do we do next? And I give you stuff to do and you run with it. And it's not necessarily stuff that's natural. I mean, you're really, I don't know if it's like fear in the sense of like, I might die if I do this, but there's always that fear of embarrassment, that fear of rejection, that fear of whatever. And like, you just run and do things. So I got to know, like, what is something you would say, like in the last maybe 90 days, 6 months that you've done that was definitely the definition of bravery? Like you were scared and you did it anyways.
Oh man. Well, a lot of it with the business. So a lot of it is just like, just reach out, just talk to people, just do it. And like, again, it's through a phone, but to me, I'd say I'm not fearful, because again, fearful is a sense of like, nope, no way in heck are you gonna make. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not here, but
we're in the lounge. Swearing's allowed.
Okay,
We've definitely approved swearing in the lounge.
Perfect. All right. Well, so being fearful is like, no way in hell am I doing that. For me, like, and my kids know that I'm fearful of frogs. No matter what, I will not go near one. Like even like 4-foot range, like I'm not getting 6 foot social distance from frogs. I'm not. I don't know. Everyone asks me that. I don't know, but I just have this like fear of frogs, and I will not get near them.
I read somewhere, and I doubted it at first, but when you play this out, it actually does work. So I'll do it with you really quick. So the theory behind phobia, so not just fear, but phobias, and it sounds like your fear of frogs might fall into the phobia category, is at some point when we're young, like before the age of 4, we see something and our brain, the way that it processes, skips like the normal process of like, oh, that's a frog. What is it? Like curiosity's sake. And it triggers your flight or fight instinct. And from that moment on, growing up, like you'll always trigger your flight or fight whenever you see this. So for me, it's spiders. Like my fear, my fight or flight instinct. And that's a really powerful instinct. That's the one that when the building's burning down, gets you to run the hell out. I mean, it's what keeps us alive. But when it attaches itself to something like a frog, or like I've got a good friend who eats worms, I got another good friend that it's like snakes. Like, I mean, we get these things. What's really interesting is I'm going to ask you a series of questions here, and we'll see if this is, we've practiced this, so we'll see if this works. But what do you think is going to happen if you touch a frog, Linz?
It's going to jump. What? Sorry, it was muted, I think.
And then what's going to happen?
And then what? Oh, that's it. I feel like it's going to jump.
And then, like, what do you think will happen to you if it jumps?
It might jump on me.
And then what will happen?
I will scream bloody murder.
And then what will happen?
Everyone will laugh at me. And like, why is this girl screaming
by yourself? Let's say you're by yourself. You see a frog. It jumps on you. What's going to happen next?
I would just run away. There's nothing else. But Dani, that's the other thing. Like I have to be close enough to let it jump on me. Like
So what's really funny about phobias, I just think this is so interesting. And my mom has this with mice. I do it with spiders. But if you keep asking the question enough, what it ends up buckling down to is your brain has attached that there's a fear of death with the phobia. Like if you really get down to it, I don't know if you can get yourself to that point, but I'll be like, well, if there's a spider and it's just like out, like it could crawl on me. And if it crawls on me, like it could bite me. And if it bites me, I could die. Like, so I'm like with heights, with everything. When people have like a phobia, it normally ends up at that fear of
that you're gonna die.
Like I could die from this. It's always so funny. The frogs, like that's just a funny one. But that's phobias for you, so I get it. I totally get it. So someday you'll have to hold a frog and I'll hold a spider, and we'll show people how fearless or brave we are.
Yeah, it'd be brave or drunkenness. I don't know, but either one.
That's what it would take. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I think one of the things I love about you, Lindsey, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this detox and talk about this is because for everybody listening out there, we all have things that hold us back in life because we have fear. Everybody has fear. Nobody out there is fearless in every category of their life, like in every situation. It's just not possible. Whether it's you're afraid to quit your job and find something better, or you're afraid of getting into a relationship with somebody, or you're afraid of having kids, or you're afraid of going into business for yourself, or you're afraid of whatever it is. One of the quotes we talked about in the Monday Shot of Motivation, both this week and last week, were the idea of if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you attempt to do? And I think Lindsey is just such a great example of that. And I'm hoping you guys understand that, like, she's talking about this from this place of like looking back on it. It's just steps out of your comfort zone that just get you closer and closer to the person you want to be, the person that you know you're capable of. And Linz, as you've been kind of walking in this light of bravery, which has been amazing, do you think your life has changed a lot over the last 12 months?
Absolutely. I think just even just little pieces. Back in, it was October at this point, but after Halloween, after the kids went to bed, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go have a beer. So I went to a bar by myself. Like, never in a million years would I have done that. So, like, just doing one little thing, like, it just changes the whole game. So, like, going out to that bar by myself on Halloween, like, sitting at the bar, like, I made some really, like, amazing friends. And it's great. Like, and some of them I know that are in the lounge right now, probably watching, but, like, little things like that where you form these different relationships with people, doing things that you've never done before. So it's, I don't know. So I'd say over the last year, it's just been mind blowing of trying to do something different, whether it's every day or every week. Like, it's crazy to me to try to just get out of your comfort zone a little bit. And it's exciting to see what happens.
Yeah. Everything that our life is meant for, our purpose, our destiny, our superpower, all of that resides outside of our comfort zone. And our comfort zone is built so that we stay safe and secure and comfortable, but nothing worth living for is in that comfort zone. Everything is outside. And so I just have to say, as we close up, that being part of your journey and watching you just bust through like every layer of that comfort zone has been one of the most rewarding experiences for me as a mentor and as a friend. And I just can't wait to see what you bust through next, because you're invincible and there's nobody else I'd rather be running with than you. So thank you, Linz, for inspiring us on what is possible. And any closing words for people in the lounge about going after their fears?
No, just do it. I mean, again, don't think about what's the worst that's going to happen of doing something. Like, what's the best that's going to happen? Again, what's the best of you going out to a bar by yourself? You're going to meet some great freaking people. Like, you're going to have fun. Just go out and do something. What's the best that's going to happen of doing something? So just stop saying no and just get out and try it.
I love that. What's the best that can happen? Well, thank you, Linz. You've been amazing. Go enjoy a beer. You've deserved it. And have a good weekend.
All right. You too. Bye.
See you later. So So everybody, thank you for attending our very first detox. That was my Moss boss, Lindsey Davis. She inspires me each and every day. I think she's amazing. Again, just as a reminder, if you comment in the comments with something that you are afraid of between now and when I decide to do the raffle, it could be tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, who knows. When I decide to do the raffle, I'm going to be raffling off a copy of Michelle Puller's book, Hello Fears. It's amazing. And that's what you get for attending the detox. Next week, our detox is going to be with Maggie Griffin, my badass hippie guide. And we're going to be doing some really incredible giveaways for that. So you will definitely want to tune in and watch as we talk about my experience with some hippie shit. And for those of you that know or have been following my journey, I was a hippie skeptic. I was very anti-hippie. I like hippies. I have lots of hippie friends in my life, but I was not going to meditate, and I was not going to read the stars, and I sure as hell was not going to own any crystals. And my life has taken a crazy turn, and Maggie's meant the helm of that. So I'm really looking forward to that, hopefully next Friday at 5. In the meantime, I want you guys to have fun, stay beautiful, bold in your work, always a little drunk, have a great time this weekend, and I'll be seeing you soon. Cheers. Talk to you later.